All right, guys, here we are jumping into another Blackboard video here. At elitefts, our major goal is to educate you guys. And sometimes we have to do this in very different ways because a lot of the times you guys ask questions and you want a very specific answer. And we always answer with, it depends. And we're gonna go over one of the reasons why when you're asking us about warm-ups or preparing for a training session, why it depends, right? Me and Dave went over this kind of in our open and closed conversation in the last podcast. And this is going to be kind of a deeper dive into some of the decision-making skills that you can have as an athlete, you can have as a coach, in order to get yourself or your client or your athletes to perform at their best. So today we're going to be looking at the principles of preparation. When preparing for a training session, it's really important to have a very basic understanding of what you're trying to accomplish during that training session as a whole, right? If you're a powerlifter, if you're a strongman, if you're a strength athlete, your training session and your preparatory needs are going to be very different in comparison to a field athlete or a sprinter or anything other than a strength athlete, right? So understanding and having that goal in mind of what your goals are as an athlete, but also the goals of that particular training session are really, really important, right? If you're a powerlifter, is it a dynamic effort session? Is it a max effort session, right? You have to understand the positions, postures, and loads that are required of you in order to get the most out of that training session and get that training adaptation that you're looking for. So that would be principle number one of determining the best means for you to warm up or the best means for you to prepare for a training session is to have a full understanding of the goal of that actual training session that you're going to be going into. You can do this with a needs analysis. You can just kind of have a better understanding what your program is. But again, first and foremost, if you don't have that end goal, you have no idea where you're going and you have no idea how to get there. The other big component of preparing for a training session or preparing for an athletic endeavor is to understand where you're coming from, right? So this is something that I don't think a lot of you take into consideration, especially if you have a desk job or you're sitting all day. Where you're coming from has a dramatic impact to what sort of modalities that we talk about later on that you'll need to implement in order to get yourself ready for training. One of the examples I like to give is if you're going into the gym and you have a max effort lower body day where you're gonna hit like a heavy deadlift, right? If you were sitting in a desk all day, do you think that if you were to go from your work, sitting at a desk, sitting in a car, and then getting to the gym that you are ready to do that deadlift or you are ready to exert that much force? Probably not. And that's what we need to kind of figure out. We need to understand the position, postures, and loads, and you're gonna hear me say that a lot because it's really, really important. The positions, postures, and loads of what your day has been like, right? Again, very different if you are an office worker compared to a construction worker. Your warm-up as a construction worker may look very, very different as opposed to if you were to have been in the seated position all day and everything's really, really tight, right? So principle number two, figure out where you're coming from. Understand the positions that you've been in. Understand the weaknesses or the limitations that you may have been put yourself under by being in that position all day long. Not only that, in terms of the physical positions, but also the nutritional capacity of what you're sitting at right now, right? Is it early in the morning? Did you just wake up? Do you have a couple meals in you, right? All of these things carry into understanding what you need to prepare for that training session. And as you know, if you want to be a better athlete, you need to make sure that you're living the life outside of the gym and doing what you need to do in order to get the best results for your training and then eventually in your sport, in your competition. So not only is it just physical in terms of the positions that you're in, but also making sure that you have enough food, your hydration, all of these things, guys. All of that is very, very important in terms of preparing for a training session. Finally, principle number three is you need to bridge the gap. Once you know where you need to be and where you are, you need to figure out some interventions to help you get to where you need to be in order to train your best, right? This is where we come up with, and you've heard me mention it before, gatekeeper exercises or exercises that I implement into my athletes or my clients' programming to have them kind of see and to be able to give them that, essentially that needs analysis of where they are, how prepared they are physically, mentally, emotionally, all of that. But it's utilizing something like a gatekeeper exercise or having some sort of a movement screen or a warm-up or something that you do based on your sport and your individual demands and your weaknesses in order that you can kind of look at objectively. Because this part of bridging the gap is not only objective, but it's also subjective as well. We want to make sure that your body is in a position to perform, but also your mind is ready to perform as well. If you're not really feeling it going into a max effort lower body session and your body isn't doing what you need to do, you may need to pivot, right? So it's this sort of a decision tree that's really, really important in terms of making sure that you are where you need to be for that session, because there are days and there are sessions where you need to pivot, right? So for example, if you start warming up, you start utilizing some of these strategies to kind of bridge the gap where it goes with our mobility work, our stability work, our foam rolling, anything that you do that helps you be able to perform at your best, get you to that heightened state of arousal, and you're finding that it's just not clicking, right? If your goal was to hit a max effort squat, 1 rep max, something new, and nothing seems to be firing, you're not stable, you can't get into good positions, you don't feel good, and you have these objective measures that are telling you, yeah, you're not ready. Your stability isn't there on one leg versus the other, therefore you should not put as much force into your body or into that side of your body as you would if you were feeling better, right? You need to have the objective measures so you can make that pivot, so that you can make that determination clearly without the subjective feedback that we tend to overflow ourselves with, so that you do not do something that will potentially harm your training or potentially cause an injury if you weren't ready for it. So again, guys, kind of a simple yet intricate kind of look at the decision making and the principles and the thought process going into understanding how to warm up, how to prep for your training. I'm going to be writing a full article on this that'll be up on elitefts that'll go into more detail, but I wanted to give you guys an understanding of the major principles that as a coach or an athlete you need to have for yourself or for the people that you're working with in order to make better decisions. Because education and learning this stuff is great and implementing it is fantastic, but you want to be able to utilize that information to make better decisions going forward, ask better questions, and then get better results. So guys, if you enjoyed this, you enjoy all our videos, make sure you like, subscribe, comment, share, do all the things. And on behalf of me and Jacob behind the camera, thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.